All right, welcome to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. We have Dr. Tamara MacIntyre with us coming in from Victoria, British Columbia, and Luke and I are coming in from Grand Junction, Colorado. And Luke, what episode is this?
229.
Awesome.
Hey, 29 is my magic number.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we were just talking about like how to stage the conversation around your career. We were talking a little bit about how you picked the college that you went to. I mean, we warmed this mic up pretty darn good.
We did.
The one thing I didn't ask you is to tell us your chiropractic story and how you got into this beautiful profession.
Yeah.
So if you please just jump right on in with us and say, hey, this is how I got into chiropractic and this is where I am today.
Sure. So I was doing my master's degree in neuroscience. Had just started and I was having some symptoms of my own. And at the time I was just sort of coming out of some pretty intense life type situation. My dad had been diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. And so I was studying neuroscience and I was watching what was happening in my own family life and my dad's health. And then was experiencing symptoms. And chiropractic really, I watched the way the medical community and the medical model was caring for my dad's brain tumor, but not actually, there was no conversation of him as a person or what health really looked like, because for most people, he was perfectly healthy and then diagnosed with a brain tumor, And so I was having symptoms myself. I was exploring what my options were. I was not satisfied with a lot of the interactions that I was personally having with the medical community. And then I was introduced to chiropractic and I met these group of incredibly bright, passionate, empowering people who loved their job, who understood and seemed to understand health in a way that I had not been living or been exposed to in, the years that I was working through my own family's health issues. And so, my chiropractic story is really, I was attracted to chiropractic philosophy and the way it viewed health and completely impacted by the happiness quotient of the people delivering the care, and thought, how is it that I've never heard of this? Like, how is it possible that I had no idea there was another way of taking care of yourself? And so my trajectory associated with finishing my master's degree and thinking I was going to go into my PhD in eating disorders or drug addiction changed in that moment where I saw myself as a clinician delivering healthcare in a way that felt completely congruent to me.
So just turning back the page a couple, you came into chiropractic with a degree in natural medicine?
No, so I did my undergraduate degree in biology and psychology. Then I did my master's degree in neuroscience. So I was doing drug addiction research for my master's degree. And then I became a chiropractor. And then I got my doctor of natural medicine after I'd been practicing for about 4 years as a chiropractor.
So you saw that there was another layer that you wanted to define within your stance in chiropractic.
It really was a byproduct of, I am a chiropractor in a socialized healthcare system and people are having health issues and I would like to know more and they're not really being taken care of. So that sort of theme of medicine takes care of the blah, 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 but what about the person and where is the conversation about health and how they can support and nurture and take care of themselves and take responsibility for their own health. It kind of came from that. So my functional medicine, natural medicine pursuit was not because I didn't feel like chiropractic was enough to offer. It was more understanding in how I could take care of myself and a better understanding how I could advocate for my patients to navigate a system that wasn't really providing options that I thought were great first-line therapy.
So it had much more to do with the country you were practicing in and how you developed yourself as a practitioner.
I think so. I do. I think, neither one of our healthcare systems, whether it's south of the border or here in Canada, work incredibly well. There's gaps. And in socialized healthcare, yes, you don't have to absorb the financial ruins that Americans would have when they're faced with something like a brain tumor. But everybody has access to the same level of care. And there's a price point with which the socialized healthcare system will step in. So, there's no such thing as second opinions, really, in a socialized healthcare system. And so there's a whole lot of that kind of stuff that was happening where I would ask patients questions, or, them being able to get their test results, or even just understand what they could be asking or what they could be pursuing on their own. And that really wasn't available to them, So
a lot goes into credibility and case presentation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt really, really strongly in practice associated with, like, people got two receipts from me. It was like, here I am as a chiropractor and I have this additional amount of information. And so I'm not going to call it chiropractic because it's not. I'm a chiropractor who also can provide you with other ways to support your health, or help you make some decisions moving forward as far as how you would like to take care of yourself when you have symptoms without a diagnosis, or when you have a diagnosis and you're not interested in the first line therapy option. So that's not chiropractic. That's just something in addition to who I am as a chiropractor. And having said that, 90% of my patients were under chiropractic care, and the other 10% were, in the throes of trying to make a decision on what they needed to do next. So, I think it's just really important. I think a lot of people will see I'm a doctor of natural medicine, or I do functional medicine, and think that it's an exchange of the power of chiropractic, and it's not. Yeah.
Maybe you could share with us some mantras that you live your life by, and maybe what some of your favorite motivational quotes are.
Yeah, I'm not great with memorizing. What my favorite mantra, which has been with me for a really, really long time, is even on my little road ID that when I'm cycling, I've had this mantra on it for a long time, which is just slow and steady. I'm somebody that thinks fast, moves fast, can get really caught up in a pace, and I think we miss out on some really important aspects of living when we're running really fast. It doesn't get you to the end any faster. So slow and steady is definitely one of mine. The idea that, once we become aware, once we start to really see what's happening, we can't become unaware, and we bear responsibility. That's definitely, a mantra and that I carry forward. I think that, growing and educating ourselves, means we don't deny what we've then learned, deny it to ourselves, but to anybody else. So finding your voice. I work with a lot of young women, and one of the things that I feel really strongly about is teaching them how to find their voice, and then to actually find the power in who they are, expressing authentically who they are. So to claim your power and to find your voice is the most powerful way to live your life. And for many, many women, that's something that we're not taught to do. It's not necessarily something that comes easily. So I would say, somewhere in and around there. Our foundation talks about easing the path. I feel like my service in this world is associated with helping people do what they want to do, reach their highest dreams, and make it as easy as possible for them to do that. And that's kind of one of our foundation initiatives and a value that Monique and I share.
Well, it's super empowering for me to hear the message that you're sharing with our audience today. Maybe you can give some more idea to what you're doing with your foundation and the Prana Foundation, and how you're helping empower others through your work.
Yeah. I grew up foundationally in a really strong, I grew up as a chiropractor in a really amazing time, in a really amazing environment. And so, because I was attracted to chiropractic philosophy, it's how I started exploring who I was going to be as a chiropractor. And so then I had all of these really incredibly powerful interactions with some really incredible people in our profession. And so one of the things that sort of was born in that time frame of me developing who I am as a chiropractor is the responsibility that you carry to help bring others with you along the way. And so, our foundation, leaving practice and going, a lot of students would say like, why did you leave practice? And the ultimate motivation for both myself and Dr. Monique Andrews, my partner, is that there's a lot of gaps in education, in our education. There's a lot of gaps in what's happening, and the transition, how difficult the transition is for students to make it into the profession. And so for us, going to a chiropractic college and was about supporting our profession and seeing it through. And so, when that ended, it's ultimately who we were. So, our foundation is just carrying forward those values that we have and the responsibility that we feel very, very strongly about, which is we're here to help support this profession, and we want to use our gifts to be able to do that. And that's really what the foundation is all about.
So coming into this,
yeah,
you're 19 years as a chiropractor.
Yes.
And how do you feel about where you are today in your career?
Oh, I feel so incredibly grateful that I have what I have to pay forward. And so I think it's one of the uniquenesses in our profession as opposed to something like dentistry or medicine. I think chiropractors have created a space where we value each other's experience, and we take the responsibility of mentoring our younger students and doctors really, really seriously. And so I'm so incredibly proud that I'm at a point in my career where I've accumulated wisdom and experience that has value to young docs, and that I can contribute in the way that I can to ensure that they don't feel as isolated as I felt at times, so that they have the ability to create the practice of their dreams, not the ones that's the model of chiropractic that practice management companies created for us for decades. I think that this generation of chiropractors I'm incredibly empowered by them. I'm incredibly moved by their drive to create an experience for themselves and their patients, and their definition of success is not solely monetary. It's such a thrill for me to be able to be just a small part of helping support them and give them a little boost to make it easier for them to get farther faster because of the experience and the people that have invested in me along the way.
So I usually save this question for the end, but since we're already on the topic, where can people go if they want to check out the Prana Foundation?
They can go to our website. There's always the pranafoundation.org. So that's the easiest place. And then I would say, because our initiatives, will meet people at different places and where they're at. I mean, really what we wanted, Luke, for our foundation was that when people need help or support, no matter where they are in their career, they can count on the Prana Foundation and Monique and I to be there for them. So whether or not it's helping them in, as a student to, like last weekend, we just did a continuing education course on polyvagal and the impact of stress in the nervous system for chiropractors. We want people to be able to have a place where they can go and know that they're going to get high quality value that's usable real time. So you can always go to my Linktree, which is just Linktree, Dr. Tamara MacIntyre, and it will always have whatever we have as offerings available. And we really try to make sure that there's always an offering, no matter where you are in your experience and career as a chiropractor, to help support you.
Well, my takeaway so far from having this conversation with you is you're so nurturing. You're nurturing for chiropractic. You're nurturing for education. You're nurturing for, empowerment of others. I think that's, my biggest takeaway is how you want to see other people be able to have support. Because you saw yourself at one point without that.
Yes, very much so. And I think, the statistics don't lie. It's like even just if you look at the statistics that are available right now that in our profession, we're consistently and have been for a very long time. Chiropractic colleges are essentially 50-50 male and female distribution, except only 1 in 4 practicing chiropractors are women. And there is the most recent statistic, and I may be wrong by a couple percentages, but I think it's like 50% of chiropractors under the age of 30 are women, except that whittles down to 25% by the time they're 40. And so we're losing people, and we're losing the nurturing, feminine application of chiropractic because of really sort of a dominant nature that doesn't feel super comfortable for a lot of women. It's a perfect profession for somebody who has children. That's not the reason we're losing women because of childbearing. I feel really strongly about that. So, I want people to stay in this profession, and regardless of gender, I want them to stay in this profession. I want them to find themselves in the profession, and I want them to practice exactly the way they want to practice, even if they haven't seen their model of practice, to know it's possible.
Well, it inspires me to just share a little bit too, is when the chiropractic profession lives in the feminine energy, it's a healing, nurturing profession.
Very
But
much
when
so.
it lives in the business side of the structure and the driver, it lives in the male energy of the profession. And I see a lot of female chiropractors having to start to develop that skill set of living in the male energy too long. And they lose their nurturing aspects of being, the caregiver when it's all business.
Yeah. And the thing is that, you're absolutely right. Our political, our political organizations, our educational organizations, the dominance of technique and distribution of force, those are all masculine dominant aspects that don't necessarily resonate with all of us. And so you're absolutely right, Jim. I think, that's a conversation that a lot of women are tentative to have. Our profession is definitely struggling with diversity. It's struggling with being able to have a conversation about the systemic racism and sexism that exists. We have to be really careful with how we, engage in those conversations. But the reality is, the more diverse we are as a profession, and the more we are truly representing our nature, the better off humanity will be having us out there practicing. So yeah, you're 100% correct. And it's an uncommon conversation that we're having right now.
Yeah. And that's what makes us so unique in this space is, we can keep free speech in chiropractic. We don't have a regulatory board. We don't have a state association. We are guerrilla radio.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And it's about being able to have these conversations, for that woman that's out there struggling. I mean, I am routinely asked, what can I do when I'm in an environment working with men where the staff and the patients don't refer to me as doctor? How do I deal with that? I just read an article that was in the ACA that was published a little while ago that just came on my radar. I think it was Christine Gertz who was talking about what it feels like to be in senior administrative meetings and being called, I can't, somebody said to her, I can't wait to give you a big hug, and, referred to her as the pretty lady who he wanted to hug, like that shit's happening all the time. And it's happening in a way in private practice that is really difficult for many to deal with.
And the other side of that I'll just jump in and mention is, are you the CA?
Yeah, totally. I don't know if there's a female chiropractor that hasn't answered their own phone and been asked to speak to the doctor. Like I think that we've all had that happen. We were doing we were doing a Prana Live, and there was a young student who said, I'm new doc. I'm going to go practice with my fiance and his father. Do you have any advice? And I said, I think it's worthy of having a conversation with both of them as allies to ensure that you are of equal footing, that you are always referred to as doctor, that is, that your conversations with the patients and the staff and their ability to step up and give you that authority, you're going to need them in that environment, Yeah.
So switching gears just a little bit, where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years or so?
I so hope that we have more diversity in practice models. There's a Facebook page that has 2,300 chiropractors who are offering mobile services, who want to go to people's homes. I mean, that wasn't even on the radar before. So when I say diversity, I'm talking about different practice models. I'm talking about cultural, racial, we need more BIPOC representation. We need to be offering our services to lower socioeconomic communities. So I think that this generation is mindful of wanting to be of service, and I think that they are going to spearhead a change and a shift from the high price point, sort of boutique access that chiropractic has had for generations.
I love that response. I know just because the socioeconomic thing is a big reason that we need to get to more people.
Yep.
And we need to give the offerings to not just the upper middle class
100%.
that can afford the services.
Absolutely.
Because I'll just be really, transparent. When I went to Palmer College as a patient, my mom was super, super, super poor.
Yeah.
And she got me there because they had a sliding scale fee that I could come in for, I don't know what it was, like $17 an adjustment.
Yeah.
But the only reason I ever got into chiropractic, and I'm the advocate that I am today, was because it became affordable.
Yes.
And I know that your fee is your fee is your fee.
Yeah.
But if we say that we're only seeing, I don't know, let's just be like clear, like maybe like 4% of the population. And some people say maybe, 10%, but there's still 90% of the people that don't have access to chiropractic. And if we're saying, hey, one spine at a time, well, we have to go to where the power of the people are, and that's the urban neighborhoods. And, I was at 10X GrowthCon with Grant Cardone's event 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he had, I won't say who it was that was speaking, and I won't say what brand it was that they were promoting.
Yep.
But what happened is he said, I wanted to bring this type of environment to the neighborhoods I grew up in.
Yep.
So I started investing in with this business that we started bringing these types of businesses to these urban neighborhoods. And they said it would never happen. It would never work. But what he did is, you let the cat out of the bag. What he did is he brought Starbucks to urban neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And he started offering to those groups things that they would like.
Yeah.
And guess what? All of those businesses started to thrive.
Right.
So when we talk about chiropractic and getting it out to more people, we need to get it into those urban settings where the people are, the necessity is probably tenfold.
Yeah. Well, and so there's a couple different things I would say about that. There is a gigantic business model that is offering a lower price adjustment that is routinely criticized, that is absolutely giving a landing place with a respectable salary to young new graduates, as they get started, yet they're criticized. And so when I say to a young student, depending on what their situation is, could you imagine doing a little bit of time in this large corporation? Because ultimately they are serving a population that chiropractic has not served before.
Amen.
And the other big piece is, I strongly encourage anybody that we work with is, imagine what it would look like if 10% of the service you provided as chiropractors was true service, like pro bono service. Like you chose an organization in your community that would not typically have access, and you provided access. I mean, it was always something that we did in our practice, is that we had, we bartered, and we also provided some pro bono care. It was always part of what we did. And so it's something that we're paying forward. Like, you know what, there's going to be people who can, who can afford that, that are the classic chiropractic users, and let them pay for and offset the service that you provide to others that would not normally have access. And I'll tell you, these young doctors are doing it. Like, they are doing it. They are getting creative about what the price point looks like. They're very aware. They're fiscally conservative because they have high debt, and they've watched a couple recessions, and their parents, they saw what happened. They're not foolish enough to think that, they see what's happening with the pandemic. They know what was happening back in, 2008, 2009. They recognize they need to be fiscally conservative. And so what are they doing? Home visits. They're setting up small little, shops where they can provide a lower price point and provide service. So I'm super optimistic that, that we have an entire generation of chiropractors that are going to truly bring chiropractic to people that would never have had it before.
With pisiforms blazing.
You got it. You got it. Yep.
And, to further round out that conversation with you, is the mobile chiropractor is going to be something that's going to become more in demand.
Yep.
And it goes back to old doctoring. Like,
yeah, totally.
back in time, 50, 60 years ago, the doctor came to your house.
100%.
And
I mean, we're living in that's what's so interesting about what's happening right now. I mean, what's your overhead? And it's a concierge service. And you see families in their own environment of comfort, right? I mean, you're the one that puts yourself at, public health risk, not the family. You know what I mean? Like there's just
the game.
It's a game changer. And there's more and more that are interested in doing it. And that has me actually really optimistic that we're going to change. We're going to change the trajectory of our profession if we really make a concerted effort to bring it to people at all socioeconomic levels and all areas of the country.
And here's the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Is when you talked about this organization that adjusts millions and checks millions of spines a year.
Yeah.
They're making an impact.
Yeah.
And it might not be the impact that the chiropractic old boys club wants to see, but it's the chiropractic of the future. Totally. And it's going to check and adjust moms and babies and kids and families at a larger rate than we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And it's going to keep chiropractic pure. And that's what they do. Yeah. They produce pure chiropractic. And that's the most beautiful part about it. And it gets the young practitioners' hands busy.
Well, and it gets them busy, and it gets them confident really quickly. And it gives them a living wage that they can then make a decision on what's next. That model is not based on long-standing, people are not, necessarily going to spend their entire career in that model unless it really resonates with who they are. But my goodness, is it ever doing a service to keep our young docs active quickly upon graduation until they get their footing and confidence.
I love this conversation.
Thank you. I do too.
Pivoting again, can you tell us who are some of your heroes and who've inspired you to become the awesome person you are today?
Oh, I would say, in my personal life, my father and my grandmother always have supported me expressing exactly who I am in all of my dimensions. I would say the first person that I really would have tagged as being somebody of integrity that I really wanted to learn from was Guy Reekman. He arrived in my life at a time where I was just a young adult, and I remember him saying one time, you want to spend time investing in yourself and find where you are personally powerful, because the more personally powerful you are, people can come and take what they need from you, and it doesn't take anything. And that's been definitely another sort of mantra of my life, and that was a gift from him. Sue Brown, oh my goodness, my life changed the moment I walked into a room and she talked about chiropractic in the manner with which she did from a level of intelligence that I had not heard from somebody in a technique realm. And she has defined 100% my practice principles and what I continue to convey when I'm working with young doctors over the table. She's defined my model of chiropractic, how I use, how I see what it is that I do in a way that resonated. So Sue for sure. Maxine McMullen. So Mad Max was a friend of mine, and I adored her. And she gave me the gift of saying to Monique and I, Monique was going to get people in the door, and I was going to be the key to them never leaving. And she got us both, and she understood our dynamic, and she defined it before we even knew how it was going to play out. And I just, I adored her heart. I adored her confidence in us the moment that she met us both. And so Mad Max I impacted me enormously. Yeah.
And if you could sit down and have lunch with any person from history, who would that be?
Gloria Steinem. As cliche as that might be, I still have a lot to learn from her lessons in life, and her class and her ability to communicate clearly and concisely without it being an anti-patriarchal conversation, but just to have a good sense of how I present in the world and why my experience in life has been as it is. I would love to talk to her about that right now. Yeah.
Also powerful, talking about like mentors and people that like lit us on fire at one point and the torch we still carry.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are listening to this right now might benefit if you would kind of explain what Sue Brown's work is.
Yeah.
And how it integrated into your practice, because I know it's called BGI.
Yeah.
But it's all about tone.
Yep.
And it's about uncoding the subluxation of the entire person, not just the osseous subluxation.
Yeah.
So maybe if you can just give some clarity to Sue Brown's work, I think our audience would benefit greatly.
A lot of young students think the BGI or bio integration is a technique. And really, that's not what it is. It's a form of assessment. And so, when we go right back to the original conversations that chiropractic is about tone, she really defined that. And what she really, I would say the key piece that's so powerful about what she talked about, which is, the body has maps, and we can follow those maps and have a good sense of where the body is storing the potential. And our job is to release that potential. And that stored, energy, that stored tone, that sort of restricted space is where we, when we introduce an adjustment, it sort of force goes into the body, and it can be one of two things. It can be constructive or destructive. And Sue's background was in oceanography. And so she used to talk about, when a wave form happens, it has a ripple effect. And the impact of the adjustment is when you introduce the least amount of force with the greatest impact and allow the body to do the healing. That basically the adjustment is just the beginning of the process, and we're just facilitators. And so BGI is really about where is that potential restriction that I can release and create an opportunity for healing. And I'm not the person that decides what to do with that. Innate intelligence knows what to do when given the opportunity. And it was the most clear, concise integration of who we are as chiropractors, what my job at hand is, and that where we store that tension or where that potential is has layers, and it's not just an osseous release experience, that it can also be stored in our tissues. And now we have evidence to talk about how we store trauma, and that constriction with respect to trauma really is consistent with the form of assessment that she laid out many years ago.
Well, it's about the map.
It's about the maps. Yeah.
We all have a map. And, I was talking yesterday about what our North Star is. And chiropractic, our North Star is always chiropractic. And there's a reason that the sun gives us life and the ocean's pulled by the moon. And the people need care because we always have gravity upon us.
Yep.
And when the people out there can take care of each other and heal each other, they can start to understand that the person is just as powerful as the planet.
Yep.
And if we can start making that person more powerful by keeping the thoughts, traumas, and toxins off of that human, then
Right.
that person can become as strong as the moon and the sun and the ocean, and they can be a contributor instead of somebody that's afraid and lives in darkness and has pain and has suffering and doesn't have vibrancy and vitality. And when we were talking to Bruce Lipton yesterday, he was like telling us all about like the vibrational frequency of people as humans. And when people have clarity of their soul and their bodies vibrate at a higher frequency, they don't even like experience the poor thoughts or the toxins. Their body is just it's regulating at a different path.
Very much so. Yeah, 100%. And so, the healing of our planet depends on our own, each one of us individually taking responsibility for our own healing. It's Donnie Epstein said many years ago, healing is a birthright. It's a gift as a human being, but it is ultimately our responsibility. And so if we're all taking responsibility of exploring our own opportunities for health, then we have a happier environment for everybody moving forward. We are much healthier as a planet.
And the space we hold, the space we hold for you is to heal the healers.
Totally.
By sharing their voice.
Yeah.
The people that listen to this that might be in your practice, they'll be like, wow, so this is the person that's providing care for me. Right. This is how deep they are. Right. This is how they got into this profession. Right. This is their belief system on chiropractic. And I think that when we heal the healers, and what Luke and I do is we work above the atlas. We work with the subluxation of the mind, and we work with the subluxation of the profession.
Yeah.
So Luke's an oracle, and he pays attention to everything that we're doing together, and now we can provide great synergy for the message of chiropractic, because I really believe that before we started in on our work, no one was really taking the position that we have today to start saying, hey, you know what, we're just going to have a cultural conversation many times a week and many times a month that are eventually going to start understanding what this chiropractic thing is. But it's not going to be because Luke and I said, hey, we're so genius about this. We're like, no, we've taken people that have been in practice, people that are educated minds, and now they get a chance to showcase their abilities to communicate what chiropractic is. And really, back in school, you guys were rewarded for talking the tick. Well, why don't we just recognize all of you and let you guys talk the tick?
Yeah. No, you're doing an incredible service. And it's important to show the diversity of us as chiropractors, because we're going to meet people where we're at and where they're at, and we can only do that when we have the opportunity to really have these conversations and expose truly who we are as human beings, because it's one of the things we say in the foundation all the time. Who you are as a person precedes who you are as a chiropractor. And it's really important that that we all are able to express authentically who we are in the profession and be embraced for it.
Amen. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So what would be some advice that you might give to some struggling chiropractic students who are out there listening to this?
It's advice probably I give all the time. I think the starting place for any student needs to be to actually be learning through yourself and your own lens, because the reality is, we see the world as we are, not as it is or they are. And that translates into what happens when you have a patient on the table. And so I think that there is an incredible technique culture out there that has convinced a lot of students that that's where their answers are going to lie. And I think the starting place for all students, we're starting to have this conversation, Monique and I, but I think to really understand where and when philosophy meets matter and what your actual gift is, how are you seeing the world? How are you doing the work, healing and growing yourself? Because when you truly spend the time actually getting that foundation down, then those decisions in terms of how I'm going to practice and who do I want to learn more from, and how do I want to deliver force, and how do I want to assess the body, those become easier and easier once you know who you are. And I think that phase gets missed sometimes. So that would be lesson number one: focus on yourself, and that's okay, because you ultimately can't help others unless you actually know how to take care of yourself. And then the second part is, I think it's really important to recognize that when you are choosing the education route, wherever you ended up choosing, to go to school, no program is going to offer you 100% of what you need. And the reality is that, en masse, we have the issue of a lot of educational institutions focusing on the degree, not focusing on your education. And as long as that's happening, students are feeling like the education is happening outside of their formatted learning experience. But I think that making a plan and recognizing where that education and who you're going to learn from is something that, don't follow your peers, follow your heart. And I think a lot of money is wasted in a lot of venues for students thinking that somebody else is going to give them the answers. So, your education is your responsibility, and you may or may not get that from your degree.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So, what do you do in your free time? What are some of your hobbies? What do you listen to, and what do you read?
Okay, so reading. I have a little book club that I do with whoever shows up. So we just we reread Molecules of Emotion. We just finished The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And we're going to do When the Body Says No, which is a second read or third read for me again, but we're going to have those kind of conversations. I just finished a book called Regenerate from Sire G. So reading is definitely, I've always got fiction and nonfiction on the go. I run. It was sort of my original introduction to what meditation is supposed to do for you internally, is exercise. So I'm a runner and a road bike. I road bike and cycle. So those two things are definitely I do on the regular. And then I would say probably the thing that those that are closest to me know, but I'm a potter. So I hand build, and that is an expressive form of creativity for me. I do mostly small sculpture.
Brilliant.
Cool. Very cool. So I know earlier you gave us pranafoundation.org, Linktree, Dr. Tamara MacIntyre. Are there any other places you can send people if they want to check you out?
We have the Prana Foundation has a private Facebook page, and we are interacting there all the time. It's where we do our lives. So the first Friday of every month we make ourselves available for anybody who has any questions or needs anything. And so I would say our foundation page is a great place to always know what we're doing, but also be part of a community that is 100% there to support you. So our private Facebook page would probably be the next place that I would say to check us out. Also our Instagram, we're look, Monique is way more prolific than I am, and she's dropping science bombs all the time. And for me, I'm there having conversations about where clinical certainty comes from, and however I can help you find that space of your power. That's really my dialogue on my Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Was there any final thoughts that you wanted to say that we didn't get a chance to ask you about?
I don't think so. I would just say I really value the work that you're both doing. I think giving the voice that you are giving the platform that you are providing is a huge, huge service to our profession. And so it takes all of us. And I love what you're doing, and I am incredibly grateful that you are.
Thank you.
Well, it touches me to my core. As you know, we're a team, and both of us are relentless in our own efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I don't do well, Luke does amazingly well. Mm-hmm. And the things that he doesn't do well, I do amazingly well. Yeah. And that's just the real beautiful thing about having a team and seeing clear vision together and supporting something that, when I kind of came into the chiropractic space, I had no idea what it needed or how I was going to contribute.
Yep.
or what it was going to be other than me getting an adjustment or
Mhm.
going out there and getting new patients for chiropractic offices.
Yeah.
But as I've been able to mature within this profession, I see what's necessary.
Yeah.
And I've been able to look at it from, above, looking down at it
Yeah.
and within it,
Above, down, inside out.
above, down, inside out. But
Yeah.
just to honor you and recognize you today, I value you so much for the work that you're doing and contributing to the chiropractic profession, and to share your time and your voice with us today. And you're absolutely brilliant and talented, and we're so blessed to have you on our show today.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Teams are important. I resonate with, as you talk about the dynamic between you and Luke. I mean, that's the way Monique and I have always, we have our gifts and we have our areas of expertise. And it's really amazing when you have a partner and teammate that can fill in your gaps. So I appreciate that enormously.
Because sometimes I don't feel like I do anything.
And please tell Mo we say hello.
I will. I definitely will. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for being on, and we want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon up in beautiful Canada.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Take care.